A CEO fired a single dad for wasting time on a dead engine. Then it became the company's most valuable invention. A true story. Underscore 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 underscore. Marcus Ellison was not the kind of man people noticed when he walked into a room. He was quiet, steady, and careful with his words. He wore the same style of dark navy jacket almost every day. He carried his lunch in a plain black bag. He said good morning to the security guard, took the stairs instead of the elevator, and sat at his desk by 8 o'clock sharp, every single day, for 11 years. He was a mechanical engineer at Vantage Dynamics, a large auto technology company that designed engine systems for some of the biggest vehicle brands in the world. The company had glass walls, a rooftop cafe, and a lobby that looked like the cover of a business magazine. It was the kind of place that felt important from the outside. From the inside, if you were Marcus, it mostly felt like a place where your best ideas got lost in someone else's presentation slides. Marcus had a daughter named Lily. She was 8 years old, with her mother's eyes and her father's habit of thinking too long before she spoke. Her mother, Elena, had passed away 3 years earlier after a long illness. Marcus did not talk about that period much. What he would say, if you pressed him, was that losing Elena had rearranged everything. The furniture of his life moved to different walls. Some things were better now. Some things were just different. And some things still hurt in a way that had no name. Every morning, Marcus dropped Lily at school. He watched her walk through the gate, backpack bouncing, until she disappeared inside. Then he drove to work. Every evening, he picked her up, made dinner, helped with homework, and read to her until she fell asleep. After that, he sat at the small wooden desk in the corner of his bedroom and worked on his project. He called it Phoenix. Phoenix was a regenerative combustion engine, a new way of cycling energy inside a motor so that less power was wasted as heat. Marcus had been developing the concept quietly for 2 years. He sketched ideas on paper first, then worked them into proper technical drawings. He had a small notebook full of calculations. He had filed a basic patent application, just a preliminary one, to secure the date, through the company's system, since he had been using the company's software and reference materials to build it. He thought nothing of that at the time. He was not trying to claim anything. He just wanted the idea to be safe. The engine, on paper, could improve fuel efficiency by nearly 40%. Marcus knew this was significant. He also knew that ideas on paper meant very little in a company where the people in charge of decisions did not have engineering backgrounds. He had tried once, early on, to raise the concept in a team meeting. The response had been polite and brief. The meeting moved on. Marcus went back to his desk and kept building. The trouble came from a quarterly review. Marcus's team had missed several project milestones that quarter. What the report did not show was that 2 of his teammates had quietly shifted their own responsibilities onto Marcus's workload without telling anyone. Marcus had absorbed the extra work without complaint. That was his way, but it had pulled his attention away from the team's shared deadlines. The numbers looked bad. His name was at the top of the list. On a Monday morning in March, Marcus received a meeting invitation from Richard Harlan, the company's chief executive. There was no agenda written in the invite. Just a time, a room number, and the names of 2 people from the Human Resources Department. Marcus dressed the same as always. He took the stairs. He sat in the glass-walled meeting room at the time he was asked, and he waited. Richard Harlan walked in 3 minutes late, phone in hand, and sat down without making eye contact. The HR manager placed a thin folder on the table. The meeting lasted 9 minutes. Harlan spoke in the clean, flat language of someone who had made this kind of decision before and had learned to keep it simple. He said words like performance concerns, and resource allocation, and a difficult but necessary step forward. He said Marcus's position was being eliminated, effective immediately. Marcus sat very still. Then he said, quietly, that he had been working on something, the Phoenix engine, and that he had filed a patent application through the company's system. He said he thought someone should know about it, because it might be worth looking at. Harlan nodded in the way that meant he was not really listening. If you've used company systems, any IP belongs to us, he said. Legal will take a look. Then he looked at his phone. The meeting ended. An HR manager walked Marcus back to his desk, handed him a cardboard box, and waited while he placed his personal items inside. A coffee mug with a chip on the handle. A photo of Lily at the beach. A small cactus that had survived 11 years on the corner of his desk. He carried the box through the open office, past the colleagues who looked at their screens a little harder than usual, through the glass lobby, and out into the parking lot. He sat in his car for 43 minutes. He did not make any calls. He did not cry. He just sat there, looking at the rolled-up schematics he had also placed in the box, and thought about what to do next. Then he drove to Lily's school and picked her up 2 hours early. When she climbed into the car and asked why he was there so soon, he said he just had some free time. She accepted this in the way children do when they sense something is not quite right but also trust that they will find out eventually. She asked if they could get ice cream. They did. The months that followed were not easy, but they were not as dark as Marcus had feared. He found freelance engineering work within a few weeks. It paid less, but the hours were flexible. He was home when Lily got back from school. He was there for the school play, the parent-teacher meeting, the Saturday morning when she learned to ride her bicycle without the training wheels on. He told himself these were things he would not have seen otherwise. He did not work on Phoenix. The project felt finished to him, not because it had been completed, but because it felt like it belonged to a different chapter of his life, one that was now closed. He put the notebook and the schematics in a folder and stored them on an old hard drive. He placed the hard drive in the top drawer of his desk, under a stack of old bills. At Vantage Dynamics, no one looked at the patent filing. It sat in the company's internal system the same way it always had, untouched, unread, forgotten. The legal team Harlan had mentioned never actually opened the file. There were bigger things to manage. Quarterly targets. Board presentations. The usual noise of a large company moving forward on its own momentum. Life moved on. Marcus found a rhythm. He was not happy exactly, but he was stable, and stability felt like enough. 18 months after Marcus carried that cardboard box out of the building, a small technology company called Novadrive took the stage at the Global Mobility Expo in Frankfurt, Germany. The expo was one of the biggest events in the automotive world. Engineers, investors, journalists, and executives from across the industry gathered there every year to see what was coming next. Novadrive had a modest booth and a short presentation slot. But what they showed on that stage stopped people mid-conversation. It was a regenerative combustion engine. The presenter, a confident engineer named Jordan Voss, explained the concept in simple terms. He called it a breakthrough. The audience leaned forward. The journalists in the back row started typing. Within 48 hours, the video of the presentation had been shared across every major engineering and technology publication in the world. Industry analysts called it one of the most significant mechanical developments in a decade. At Vantage Dynamics, someone on the technical team watched the Novadrive video on a Thursday afternoon and immediately sent it to Priya Nair, the company's vice president of research and development. Priya watched it twice. Then she watched it a third time, more slowly. A feeling settled in her stomach that she could not immediately name. It was the feeling of something familiar arriving from an unexpected direction. She opened the company's internal patent system that evening and searched for any past filings related to regenerative combustion. She was not sure what she was looking for. Then the results loaded, and she found it. Marcus Ellison. Filing date, 22 months ago. Status, preliminary, unreviewed. Priya read the filing slowly. She read every page of it. The concept, the calculations, the projected efficiency gains, it was not identical to what Novadrive had shown, but the underlying principle was the same, and Marcus's date was 14 months earlier. She closed her laptop, stood up from her desk, and stood at her office window for a long time, looking at the city lights below. She thought about the day Marcus had tried to raise the Phoenix concept in a team meeting. She thought about the quarterly review that had gotten him fired. She thought about the meeting she had walked into knowing he was going to lose his job, and the sentence she had prepared in her mind to defend him, and the moment she had looked at Harlan and decided not to say it. She sat back down and requested an urgent meeting with the chief legal officer for the following morning. Marcus was making dinner, pasta, Lily's favorite, when his phone rang. He did not recognize the number but answered it anyway. The voice on the other end was careful and professional. The caller identified herself as a representative from Vantage Dynamics' legal department. She said the company had recently reviewed some internal records and had come across a patent filing associated with his name. She said the company would like to discuss the matter and asked if he would be available for a call with their legal team later in the week. Marcus listened without interrupting. When she finished, he said, "I'll need to speak to my own lawyer first." He had never said those words before in his life. They came out calmly, cleanly, as if he had been rehearsing them for years without knowing it. He hung up and stood at the stove, stirring the pasta slowly, his mind working through what this meant. Lily looked up from her homework at the kitchen table. "Who was that?" she asked. "Old work," he said. "Good old work or bad old work?" He thought about it for a moment. "I think it might be good," he said. "We'll see." She looked at him for a second longer than usual, then went back to her homework. His lawyer was a man named David Osei. They had grown up on the same street and stayed friends through everything life had done to both of them. David now ran a small but respected intellectual property practice. When Marcus called him that evening and explained the situation, David listened without saying a word. Then he said, "Send me everything you have. Every email, every document, every version of that patent filing. Send it all tonight." Marcus went to his desk, opened the drawer, and took out the hard drive. What David found over the next several days was straightforward on the surface but important in its details. Because Marcus had used Vantage Dynamics systems and resources when developing Phoenix, the patent legally belonged to the company. This was standard practice, written clearly into Marcus's original employment contract. Vantage Dynamics owned the invention. But there was another clause in that same contract, buried in the section most employees never read. It stated that in the event a named employee's contribution led directly to a commercially valuable patent, the company was required to formally credit that employee as the inventor of record and provide a percentage royalty on any future licensing revenue from that invention. It was a standard protection clause. Vantage Dynamics had included it in all engineering contracts for years. And in the rush to distance themselves from the name Marcus Ellison, no one had thought about it. David sent a formal letter to Vantage Dynamics' legal team on a Tuesday morning. The letter was polite, precise, and left very little room for negotiation on the core facts. The response came back within 24 hours. They were willing to talk. The process that followed took 4 months. There were calls, counteroffers, revised documents, and several days when Marcus heard nothing at all and had to simply carry on with his life, drop Lily at school, do his work, make dinner, wait. Priya Nair provided a written statement confirming that Marcus had formally presented the Phoenix concept to colleagues at Vantage Dynamics before his departure. She stated the dates, the attendees, and what had been discussed. She did not editorialize. She simply told the truth, clearly and on record. It was, Marcus understood, the thing she should have done much earlier. He accepted the statement without comment. In the end, the settlement gave Marcus 3 things. It gave him his name on the patent, listed as the original and sole inventor. It gave him a royalty arrangement, a small but legally binding percentage of all revenue Vantage Dynamics would earn from licensing the Phoenix engine to other manufacturers. And it gave him a formal letter of recognition, signed by the company, acknowledging his contribution. He did not get an apology. He did not ask for one. He did not get his job back. He did not want it. He framed the letter of recognition and hung it on the wall of his home office, not in the living room, not somewhere guests would see it. Just in the small room where he worked, where only he would look at it. Vantage Dynamics moved quickly once the settlement was signed. They had already begun conversations with 3 major vehicle manufacturers about licensing the Phoenix technology. Within a year, the first production engines built on the Phoenix principle were being tested in commercial vehicles. Industry analysts estimated the licensing revenue over the next decade at figures that made the legal fees look like a rounding error. the company issued a press release about the engine partnership. It mentioned the company's culture of innovation and long-standing commitment to sustainable engineering. It did not mention Marcus Ellison by name. The patent documents themselves, filed with the relevant government agencies, listed him clearly as inventor. But patent documents are not press releases. Most people would never read them. Marcus read about the announcement on his phone one morning while waiting for his coffee to brew. He read it once, put his phone down, and poured his coffee. On a Friday morning in October, Marcus pulled into the school parking lot and waited for Lily to gather her things. She was 9 now, and she had recently developed strong opinions about which songs were acceptable to play in the car. The morning had been ordinary in the best way: toast, a small argument about a forgotten library book that turned out to be in her bag all along, the regular short drive through familiar streets. Before she opened the door, Lily turned to him and asked something she had clearly been thinking about for a while. She asked if he was happy about everything that had happened, the engine, the company, all of it. Marcus looked through the windshield at the school gate, where other children were filing in with their backpacks and their noise and their uncomplicated mornings. "I'm happy the engine is going to exist," he said. "I'm happy someone is going to use it." Lily considered this. It was not quite the answer she had been looking for, but she seemed to understand that it was the true one. She picked up her backpack, kissed him on the cheek, and got out of the car. He watched her walk to the gate. Same walk she had always had, slightly too fast, slightly bouncing, as if the ground was just a little springy beneath her feet. She disappeared through the entrance without looking back, the way children do when they are confident that someone is still watching. He never got the headline. He never got the standing ovation. What he got was his name on a document that told the truth, and an engine that would run in the real world and do exactly what he had always believed it could do. Marcus started the car and pulled out of the lot. He had a meeting across town, a new client, a small engineering firm that had reached out to him 3 weeks ago after seeing his name listed on a patent filing. They wanted to talk about a consulting arrangement. He was looking forward to it. The road ahead was ordinary and open. The morning light came in flat and golden through the windshield. He turned on the radio, something quiet, and drove. Underscore 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 underscore